Bettridge's law of headlines is an adage that states any headline that ends in a question mark can be answered by the word no. So, no. The digicam I have with me today, which is the Panasonic Lumix LX2, is not the perfect digicam, nor is it the last digicam you'll ever need to buy. But the kind of pictures it takes comes pretty damn close to what a perfect vision of what a digicam photo would aspire to be. I'm sure there's plenty of coverage about the later Lumix LX3 and LX5 in digicam circles, but not so much of the earlier LX2. It's kind of sandwiched between the OG Lumix LX1 and of course its later, more popular brothers. But from what I read, the LX2 is essentially the LX1 with a bit better noise performance and supporting SDHC cards instead of just SD on the LX1, which limits you to, I think, a maximum of 2 gigs of storage, which is pretty constricting. And of course it was slow. So if you've watched the LX1 video from I Love Telephoto, which to be honest was the video that inspired me to seek out a camera of the LX series, I would seriously give the LX2 a look since it's basically an improved version of the LX1. I had to get this camera myself, as in I had to go to the seller and get it instead of having it shipped. But thankfully the Japanese guy selling it to me was super nice, really nice guy, and understanding when I was a bit late, because I kind of got lost in between the train stations. He even gave me a discount, which was just awesome. This is the best transaction I've ever had, really. First of all, let's look at the design of this digicam. It's not sort of the weird blobby looks of the Canon digicams, nor is it super angular and sharp, but it's a perfect balance of sort of, you have sharp lines here, but you also have subtle curves, right? It wasn't just me who appreciated this look though, because hey, Leica liked it enough that they customized it by removing this little front grip, which frankly is kind of useless. And they turned it into what you would call a Leica D-Lux free. Now this LX2 also has more Leica DNA. As you can see here, it would right here, it says Leica on the lens, right? And it's a Vario Elmarit 4x digital optical zoom with the lowest aperture being 2.8. In all honesty, it has one of the sharpest zoom optics I've ever seen on a digicam. The lens, it doesn't use a mechanical shutter cover like the usual digicams, but instead it has a lens cap with a wire attached to it. It makes the LX2, I guess, feel a bit more like a serious camera than it would be as sort of a digicam toy, I guess. To be honest though, I would still have liked mechanical shutter covers instead of a lens cap, but it's not a deal breaker, and it's kind of cool, I guess. Now, behind this lens sits a custom 10 megapixel 16:9 aspect ratio CCD sensor that lets you change the aspect ratio on the fly. Look at this, you have 4:3, 3:2, and 16:9. It's awesome, right? It lets you change the aspect ratio without changing the field of view of the sensor. So for how I shoot, usually I'll leave it in the 3:2 aspect ratio, but because the LX2 has RAW capture, it saves the full 16:9 aspect ratio output, which gives me some editing leeway more, a bit more vertical and horizontal space just to crop in post if I need it. And it's really come in handy. And the control scheme here is also decent-ish, I guess. You don't get any control dials except for the mode change dial, but you do get this little joystick, as you can see, which is similar to the Ricoh CX series that I talked about last time. The joystick will control both your shutter speed and your aperture semi-decently. Of course, you have this mode dial on the top, which allows you to, of course, change modes. The thing is, it's very smooth and easily spinnable, which I like. But the thing is, sometimes it's too loose and it gets stuck. It gets stuck in between different modes, and the camera kind of has to acknowledge that in the software. And sometimes it just spins itself into the gallery mode when I need to take the picture. The display on this thing is also not great. It's not a swivel or hinge display, it's just bolted on the camera. It does not have a lot of resolution, and the viewing angles are just laughable by today's standards. And whilst that raw capture is nice, it needs to be converted to be used with your usual suspect of image processors like Room. Now, I'm sure anyone who's used the Lumix LX1 knows of its super slow raw save speeds. And whilst the LX2 improves on it slightly, it's still gonna take you roughly 4 seconds to save a raw picture, which is a while, I guess. The thing is though, once you get the file outputs from the LX2, all of these little shortcomings, the slow raw, the kind of loose dial, the bad LCD, everything like that, it just melts away. Once I took the first few shots for this camera, I was just instantly in love with the pictures coming out of this thing. The Leica lens, the custom CCD sensor, and the old Venus engine image processor in here combines to make some of the nicest colors I've ever seen. Something even the later Panasonic Lumix cameras, they don't quite nail, like this one. Like, look at this picture. You can see that the lens, it renders a nice slight halation with the sunlight, but it retains good clarity across the whole picture. And the colors are ever so slightly muted, but never too low in terms of contrast and vibrancy. It's like a really nice, consistent sweet spot. And from the raw output of this camera, I barely needed to do any adjustment at all, save for maybe some curves and shadow adjustments. That's about it. Here's another picture where you can see the 16:9 aspect ratio just working perfectly. And again, this is from the raw. I barely did any adjustments, and the colors, they come out just right to make a beautiful image. And then you can see this picture where this person is walking up everything. The lens this camera just renders it so nicely. It almost looks like a stairway to heaven, you know? Like when you give enough lighting to keep it at a relatively low ISO, the LX2 has consistently given me the best photos that I've taken and the most magical rendering I've seen for a digicam. And I have been trying hard to replicate how it renders in other cameras, but man, there's nothing that does it quite like this one. Combining both a vintage, magical, but also sharp look, along with the versatility of the raw output. Of course, this is only for ISO 400 and below. You go above that, the picture starts to break down dramatically. And even with raw capture, your chances of saving that shot is 50-50 when it comes to high noise stuff. But then sometimes the output of the LX2 just transcends reality, honestly, seriously. Now look at this picture. This is the unedited RAW, okay? Not so impressive, yeah. The low dynamic range means that all the shadows are basically black. But look at what happens when I increase the exposure in post. Voila, right? This pic, okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. It looks just ethereal. You know, you can see that the trees are kind of blurred out. It's kind of glitchy, right? Like a hologram, and a strong chromatic aberration just adds to that effect, making the scene looks like it's kind of in some kind of matrix virtual reality instead of real life. I bet you your digicam can't do that, can't you? And thus, I fall even more in love with the Alex2. Not only does it help you capture reality, but it helps you capture the surreal. So with all that being said, if I had to buy only one digicam and it's the last one I ever get to buy, a forced endgame, if you will, I would have no regrets if it was with the Lumix LX2. The Leica lens, the 16:9 CCD sensor, the old and admittedly slow Venus engine processor combo creates some of the most magical images you'll ever see in the digicam world. And the Lumix LX's pedigree and notoriety is well deserved. Sandwiched in between the OG LX1 and the more modern LX3 and 5, the LX2 is often less talked about, but it's no less full of character and awesomeness. And it can be found for slightly less money in this peak digicam price scout season that we're in. Grab one, and I feel you'll fall in love with it like I did as well.